Formula One on 5 Live.
Good afternoon from the entertainment capital of the world. We're in Las Vegas for round 22 of the Formula One calendar. Temperatures actually decreased since we were here yesterday. It certainly feels that way. It's been a bit miserable all morning with rain on track too. Whilst though it has stopped raining in the last couple of hours, we could be in store for quite a slippery final practice session. One last chance then for our 20 drivers to get up to speed before we go qualifying later on under the lights of Las Vegas, which have already begun to come on to illuminate this circuit. It's Harry Benjamin up with you in the commentary box. We're actually situated just on the inside of the pit lane entry as the track bends to the left for the final corner. Someone else with an excellent view down by the garages, described by the Las Vegas circuit security when we walked in this morning as a cool woman. It's of course Rosanna Tennant.
Oh, I was so thrilled with that compliment, Harriet. But a spring in my step on the way into the circuit. But he was a bit right in terms of temperature. It is cool. It's 11 degrees. Still not quite into those single-digit temperatures we were expecting. But it is chilly. And as you said, it was raining this morning. We did our show in the drizzle earlier on. But that has stopped now. I've got a bigger coat on, so I feel a little cozier. But I am down in the pit lane and looking into the fast lane of the pit lane. So the part where the drivers pull back out from their pit stop into, that has still got some damp patches on it, and I think it's the same around the track as well. So whilst it's not raining, it is cold, and there will be some puddles or at least damp areas for the drivers to navigate this evening.
Yeah, Alice, this is going to be... Oh, Alice Powell, by the way, is alongside me in commentary. You were in the hot seat yesterday. You were in this seat, weren't you?
I know.
For FP2.
I'm surprised they've let you back in.
I know, you did a cracking job, to be
half
fair.
a day yesterday, fair play.
Yeah, you've been F1 Academy as well.
It's been a busy weekend so far, but it's Vegas, why not?
Exactly, you can lose all your money tonight at the blackjack table. But before we get there, we do have one last practice session, and as Rosanna was alluding to there, it's going to be incredibly tough because also we had a disrupted session yesterday, 2 red flags. Not everyone was able to get a long run pace in there, so we are heading into a bit of the unknown ahead of quali.
We are, and I guarantee you the F1 teams, when they turned up, they actually turned up similar time that we turned up. When they approached the paddock and it was still raining, they were probably thinking, this is not what we need, because as you said, they lost running yesterday and they were probably going to have to try and maximise this session. But I'm just looking out of the commentary box window, and it's one of those, if you went on an intermediate tyre, you're likely to shred it, but if you went on a slick tyre, you're going to have zero grip. So if this was in Barcelona, even throw Silverstone in there, you'd be like, well, it's quite breezy, you know, it's probably going to dry, there is no wind, track temperature is 13 degrees, it's chilly, air temperature is 12.
It's chilly in the commentary box. We've all got our puffer coats on, except for Andrew Benson, the BBC's F1 correspondent. He's just got the jumper in the far left corner of the commentary box. Feeling nice and warm?
I've been striding around the paddock, digging up news, or at least the semblance of the beginnings of news, Harry. So
okay, we look forward to hearing that
another time.
Exactly. I'll tell you what, though, because I think we have a little bit of time, and I'm not anticipating a huge flurry of track action at the start of this session, as Charles Leclerc is just being weighed before he gets into his car with his helmet in hand. So maybe Leclerc will give us some car action in the earlier stages of this free practice 3 session. I want to talk about manholes for a short moment. That was the reason, I know, that was the reason why we had 2 red flags yesterday, originally positioned as a loose manhole cover just before the final corner at turn number 17. Andrew, I understand there have been a few updates since that practice session from the FIA.
Yeah, it was a slightly bizarre evening last night, because 1 minute, they stopped 2 red flags yesterday, and then after the session people were ringing me and telling me there hadn't been a problem with the manhole cover at all, and it was all a bit difficult to work out what was going on. But the FIA have said this morning, it's actually this evening now nearly, that's years of practice there for a final practice session. They say the manhole that prompted the red flag in second practice was disassembled and further inspected. A specific fault was found with the closure mechanism, and it was possible to address this overnight. The manhole cover has also been welded, and every other manhole cover around the circuit has been inspected with additional welding applied to a further 14 of their assemblies, as they described them. So fingers crossed it won't happen again, but let's see.
I mean, it can be disastrous. It can literally rip apart a car, as we saw with Carlos Sainz in the first iteration of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. So teams will certainly be watching out like a hawk. It's very interesting, while you were talking there, Andrew, just caught Jonathan Wheatley, the team principal at Sauber, who was just having a nice conversation with Nico Hülkenberg, and I'm not sure if you picked it up, but saying, I bet they all go out now. Like Hülkenberg was going anywhere, so I don't think we're going to see the Saubers out. But Lando Norris getting strapped in and knocking a load of objects off the side of his Formula One car as he was doing so. So a bit of a clunky entrance for Lando Norris.
It's one of those situations where Alice and I were discussing this yesterday in the session. It was when you weren't here, when you were having your holiday.
Yeah, all right, I wasn't here. Holiday?
It's they are going out. So what often happens is teams don't go out because they don't want to be the ones who drive the track and wreck their tyres and lose any constructive work. But I have to say, the paddock's relatively dry now. And it looks like the track's pretty dry as well, as we see
Oscar Piastri
going around.
There's sketchy, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's patches of water. There's sort of, but most of it's dry. But he's splashing every now and again as he goes through the compressions in various parts of the streets of Las Vegas at the circuit. It's exactly the sort of conditions which drivers dread, Alice, isn't it? Because you find for the most part, and then you just catch a little bit of water here, and you can be in the wall. And that's the last thing anybody wants in this session.
I think there's several things here as we're riding on board with Lewis Hamilton, so we're going to get a great view. Oh, he's having to be so gentle with the throttle. He's going to come into turn 7 now, which was proving to be a tricky corner when it was bone dry yesterday. It still looks a bit patchy, doesn't it? But there's so many variations of tarmac here, so many variations of painted white lines on the circuit, and this straight now that Lewis Hamilton is heading down, which goes into turn 10, it's pretty damp, really. So they're all desperately out there trying to make sure that they'll getting some data in, but it's going to be so tough to generate that tyre temperature because it's so cold. We'll hear from Piastri.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment it's too wet for slicks.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a little bit like the motorways we were driving back from the Grand Canyon the other day, Alice, isn't it? Some of the bits of tarmac looked okay, and the rest of them were like glass. And that's what the track looks like at the moment here in Las Vegas. And there are even some puddles on the apexes of some corners I noticed from Lewis Hamilton's
That's the thing, and you haven't got the breeze to dry the circuit. And the way it dries is by going round and round and round. Oscar Piastri is being like, okay, everyone, you all stay in the garage. I'll be the one to drive round and round and round and get used to it. But he is having to go so slowly, so gentle with the throttle. And obviously, Harry, we've got qualifying later. So none of them want to be sending it into the wall.
Yeah, we certainly do. Everybody out there on intermediates. Just 3 cars out there at the moment in the form of Piastri, along with Hamilton, and Ollie Behrman in the Haas has gone out there as well. For those who wish to do a sync-up, it's coming your way now. 56 minutes and 36, 35, 34, 33 seconds as Oscar Piastri arcs his way through the left-hander of turn 6. It's a left-right twisty section that comes at you. Saw a lot of cars struggling there in the drier conditions yesterday in circles. The Sphere section built only a couple of years ago when the Las Vegas Grand Prix first joined the calendar. Piastri applying the throttle, the rear end just sticks out slightly as he heads down Sands Avenue. 2 high-speed bends, flicking right then left before he slows it down through the gears into the slow left-hander, turn 12. Another corner that really can catch you out, but it sets you up nicely as you head down that iconic strip, the Las Vegas Boulevard, as you bend past the left-hander of turn 13 and fly past the Venetian Hotel, flying too past the Bellagio Fountain, Caesar's Palace and the Paris Hotel with the Eiffel Tower overlooking this just over 6.2 kilometre circuit. Slows it down for turn 14. A tight section here of 3 slow corners, left, right, then left again as you now head about 0.8 kilometres down Harmon Avenue before you scream past our commentary box. It's a flat out if you dare, perhaps not in these conditions, turn 17, but that actually sounded pretty flat out, doesn't it, as he crosses the line? Let's hear from him.
His tyres starting to die already. Better be very nervous on his slick.
So tyres starting to die already, but I'd be very nervous on the slick, so not ready for that dry tyre.
And you could see that, couldn't you, Alice, as he came through turns 15 and 16, which is the sort of chicane immediately after the left-hander off the strip. He had a big oversteer moment. You might have heard it on your radios as the revs sort of spiked a little bit through that corner, and it's a very, very mixed surface at the moment.
That's the thing, that the wets, they're on the intermediate. The grooves are not as deep or as thick as a wet tyre. So it's in Formula One, it's very, the weather's particularly bad if you see Formula One cars on wet tyres. But what Oscar was talking about there is basically the surface of his intermediate tyres. It's got too hot, and when it meets the dry part of the track, it just starts to bubble over, and then the grooves start to fold over, and you just then do not have the grip. And that's what we were kind of expecting, wasn't it? It was going to be too dry for the intermediates and too wet for the slicks. But we have got a few more cars out now. There's 7 on track.
Ocon has joined his teammate, although Ben has actually now got into the pit lane. Norris out there, Verstappen, Alonso and Yuki Tsunoda have all headed out onto the circuit.
I mean, what's good about this situation in a way is that more Formula 1 cars lift up a lot of water from a racetrack, so the more of them that go out on their intermediate tyres, the quicker the track will dry. The second thing is that usually they're a bit wary of using their intermediates because they only have 4 sets for the entire weekend. But it's predicted to be dry after today, so they may be less shy of using their intermediates. The only question there is do they feel that if there's any risk of the track being wet in any way for qualifying, they won't want to get rid of those sets of intermediates in that situation.
At last look, I think we'd seen all the rain there was, but it can change quickly as Esteban Ocon is heading around on the circuit at the moment, making his way down the strip. The lap times on the board at the moment from Oscar Piastri with that effort was a 1:47.162. Hamilton, the only other driver out there with a competitive lap time at the moment, about a second adrift from Piastri. Esteban Ocon should come home to complete this lap unless he dives in after the final sector like his teammate did. He does not, and he crosses the line and puts that Haas up into 3rd spot. For the Frenchman, the 29-year-old who hasn't been in the top 10 in a qualifying since Monaco, has been pretty fundamentally beaten by his rookie teammate since the summer break. Outscored 32-3 by the young British rookie that sits in the other seat. As we're getting a look at Lewis Hamilton trying to brake and slow down into the turn 1 hairpin, and the car not quite playing ball, and the runoff area awaits him, but he safely rejoins.
I'm quite surprised that we have got this amount of cars going out in these conditions, because if this was at perhaps Silverstone, I'm not going to use that as an example, but Monza, for example, they'd be like, no, we're not going to risk it before qualifying. But that, to me, could maybe be a sign that they're maybe not too sure about the weather. I mean, I didn't expect him to be as raining as much as it was this morning when we arrived. So, yeah, maybe that's a sign. As Lando Norris gets all out of shape as he makes his way down through... Where is he at the moment? Through turn 16. Yeah, that's where he took maybe a bit too much curb, but goes through and jumps up to the top of the times.
Yeah, Lando Norris out there on the intermediate tyre, 1:46.806. So it's McLaren 1 and 2 at the moment, and Norris pit down to 2nd as Oscar Piastri now goes for another lap, crosses the line and goes faster, but Lewis Hamilton is the man fastest now. Fastest of anybody in the middle and the final sector, and jumps up with a 1:45.758. So time's getting quicker with every lap we go here, but slippery conditions. What's it like in the pit lane, Rosanna?
It's actually pretty pleasant, I have to say. It's fairly quiet as well, and it's nice to see cars on track, as you were saying. There are quite a few people in the grandstand on the start-finish straight, so they're being treated to some action. But I just wonder, I'm not seeing any rain on the radar. Is it just worth them going out to clean up the track? Because it takes so long for the circuit to dry. So is it actually just better to get out there now to help things when we get to qualifying later on, to lay down as much grip as possible? They've only got F1 Academy in between the 2 sessions, haven't they? So is there any thought in that? Is there any truth in that?
I wouldn't say so. You're not going to lay much rubber down on a wet tyre. certainly if you do get onto the slick tyre. But yeah, I think they still gathered good information in free practice 1 and in free practice 2. So yeah, I feel like there might be maybe some uncertainty amongst the F1 teams about whether there may be some rain later on in the weekend, because usually, as I said, you don't really see them go out and take the risk before qualifying.
But the tricky thing is, like with all street tracks, but particularly this one, obviously it reopens to the traffic, doesn't it? And these big American cars, and it is so dirty the minute you put a wheel offline. So I wonder if there is just a little bit of a benefit there. But this is the sound of Carlos Sainz, by the way, just making his way into the 90-degree right-hander of turn 5. He then curves round through turn 6. This is always a tricky corner to try and make it work for the Williams driver, and does navigate it, but absolutely teeters up and over the curbs through the left, then the right. Yellow flag out on track in the corner that Carlos Sainz had just been through out of turn 5. I wonder if it was the Ferrari or perhaps one of his teammate Albon, Alex Albon, who has just run deep, but the yellow flag's gone back in, so he's got going again. Tell you what, it's been a decent weekend so far. I mean, we've only had 2 practice sessions, but for Williams, Alex Albon in particular was right up there yesterday. Could be in for a strong weekend after a tough run of things, actually, for both Sainz and Albon.
Yeah, they really didn't have a very good Brazil at all, to be honest. And actually going into that weekend, Albon was like, yeah, we did great here last year, we're hoping to replicate the pace. And yeah, it was a weekend to forget. But certainly Albon yesterday had a good day, was second in free practice 1, he was 8th in free practice 2, didn't really get a proper run on the soft tyre, but of course so did many of the others were in the same boat. But Sainz pops up into 5th place. He's 1.1 seconds off Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen's joined Hamilton up there now. Those 2 drivers I just mentioned, they always quite like these weather conditions, don't they?
We're getting a look at the reason for the yellow flag a few moments ago. It was indeed the other Williams of Alex Albon slowing down for the right-hander of turn 5, and not playing ball was the car, but the runoff there, and enough room for Albon to do a short UE and get back onto the circuit. No harm done there for the tyre driver.
I think he was thinking about doing a sort of a donut to get himself back round again, but then thought against it, because that would have absolutely destroyed the intermediate rear tyre, and these times are just tumbling. So Lando Norris has gone up to P1 now, 45.0. As I said, that Lewis Hamilton 44.5, and just for reference, the fastest time yesterday was Lando Norris at 33.6. And Sainz has come on the radio, Harry, and says it's almost time for slicks.
Yeah, it's almost dry. That's what Carlos Sainz is saying. We're going to see the Spanish driver teeter out on a set of slick tyres as Charles Leclerc makes his way through turn 6 on the intermediate still. Oscar Piastri now back up to the top of the timesheets with a 1:43.896, 6/10 clear of Hamilton. Then comes Lando Norris. Good day for Lando Norris yesterday at the end of FP2, despite that truncated session with the 2 red flags. And talk of, well, good days, electrifying opening day over in Perth for the Ashes. Cricket will be back again from 2 o'clock this morning on 5 Sports Extra with the TMS team, so do stick around for that following us. But with 46 minutes and 24, 23, 22, 21 seconds remaining of free practice 3, it's Piastri, Hamilton, Norris, Hadjar and Verstappen the top 5, Ocon, Sainz, Tsunoda, Lawson and Albon the top 10. Rosanna.
Thanks, Harry. Yeah, I've just been having a chat with McLaren about their rear wing choices, because they came into this weekend saying they were bringing 2 options to run here in Vegas, and only 3 teams submitted changes to the car that they were going to be making this weekend, but it was all circuit specific because of the way and the nature of this circuit. They have confirmed that they are running the Monza spec rear wing, so they've gone in a certain direction. They were running different wings on different cars yesterday, but they've decided to go for the Monza spec car, so some low downforce needed for the McLaren team here in Vegas.
Thanks, Rosanna. It's interesting, isn't it, Alice? Because I suppose you've got to try and find some sort of compromise. Well, that's the name of the game, right? At most tracks, you've got to find a compromise. But here, you want to ensure you've got the top speeds for that incredibly, just almost 2 kilometre long back straight. But you don't want to compromise the grip and the downforce for the low-speed corners.
Well, that's the thing. And comparing Monza to here, obviously the strip is a lot longer than the main straight in Monza. But one thing here that makes it difficult to run that low downforce is the temperatures. It's a lot colder than when you're in Italy in the summer, but also the bumps, in particular down into turn 14. They'll be hitting the brakes at over 200 miles an hour at the end of that strip, and it's bumpy, and the grip surface is low. The tyre temperature is not going to be where you ideally want it, because you're going down that straight, and because it's 1.92 kilometres long, your tyres will lose temperature because you're just driving in a straight line. You're not generating any particular temperature. So that's then why we've seen people snaking on the rear as they're hitting the brakes and just having to be so gentle when turning into the car, into the corner. And then also, how many times? Well, with lots of hands and lots to count, lots of fingers to count on, that how many times we saw people lock up yesterday and just overshoot the corners.
Countless. George Russell approaching one of those tricky corners now. That's the sound you can hear of the Mercedes man who starts his 150th Grand Prix on Sunday. Your time, Sunday in the UK, Saturday our time. We'll be constantly doing that, but so far this is his first lap on the intermediates. No one, despite Carlos Sainz declaring it was ready for slicks, no one has dared head out yet on a dry tyre. Russell flying now down Sands Avenue. Lando Norris is flying through the first sector and the middle sector down the strip at the moment, about to hit a bit of traffic in the form of the other Mercedes, the Kimi Antonelli, as he comes into turn 14, but track improving all the time as Lewis Hamilton crosses the checkered line and goes fastest with a 1:43.137. See where George Russell will end up. He's personal on his first flying lap. Decent first and middle sector for George Russell, who of course won this race last year, as Lando Norris does cross the line and pips Lewis Hamilton by just over half a tenth of a second.
Interesting to look here. Leclerc is around about 2.7 seconds off Lewis Hamilton. However, he has only done 4 laps, but Hamilton's done 9. I wonder what the discussion was of why Hamilton wanted to go out. Maybe he didn't, but the team told him to go out sooner than Charles Leclerc.
Well, as we are just getting a look at, so we'll come back to that, Alice. We're just seeing.
That's a piece of floor, that is.
That is a piece of floor. Is it coming off the Racing Bulls of Liam Lawson as he flies over the bumps? And that bit of floor rises up in the air and then crashes back down offline, but won't have done that Racing Bulls much good.
Yeah, that was the skid plank. He's likely gone over some curb somewhere and broken that at some point around the lap.
So Hamilton, so what, he's done 8 laps now. Charles Leclerc on 3. Hamilton up in second at the moment, 59 thousandths of a second separated. And Max Verstappen is embarking on a flying lap now as well. It could, I suppose, it could just be once the track time and to try and get more confidence in that car.
Could be, it certainly could be, but just something that stood out to me really, because if we compare, let's say, Tsunoda and Max, they went out at the same time. Russell and Antonelli have gone out at the same, pretty much all, apart from Norris and Oscar, but there's only 2 lap difference there. So just something that I thought was interesting.
We'll keep an eye on it.
Maybe we'll have to send Rosanna down there. She can go and wander into Ferrari garage and say, hang on, what's going on?
I'm sure they'll gladly hand over their run plan knowledge.
Yeah, come on, Rosanna, do some digging.
41 minutes, 14, 13, 12 seconds remaining. It's Norris fastest, Hamilton second ahead of Piastri. Hadjar's up in 4th. Max Verstappen is on a lap at the moment. He's currently in 5th ahead of Russell, and he'll go up to 4th place. Then it's Hadjar, Russell now 6th. Albon, Tsunoda, Sainz, Leclerc is the top 10. Then it's Lawson, Ocon and Antonelli, the 13 drivers that have set a representative lap time. So no lap time on the board yet from Behrman, Alonso, Bortoletto, Pierre Gasly, Lance Stroll, Nico Hülkenberg or Franco Colapinto. Indeed, the 2 Saubers, the Aston Martin of Stroll and the 2 Alpines haven't even been on the track yet. So they are in no rush whatsoever as the sky darkens above this Las Vegas Strip circuit, illuminating this 6.2 kilometre run. 17 turns, 11 to the left and 6 to the right as Formula One cars wind their way through these city streets, down that section of the strip. They'll pass absolutely iconic sites like the Venetian Hotel or the fountains outside the Bellagio, Caesar's Palace in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower. You go a little bit further on down the strip and you get to the Statue of Liberty too. The track reopening every evening as well for the traffic here, so that plays a part as well. It really is a unique circuit on the calendar. It's a race, but it's more than that too. It is an event, and Las Vegas is lit up all times throughout the year. Everywhere you look there are neon lights, but so this weekend.
We're going to box this lap. We've got an issue with the car, so we're going to box this lap.
And Yuki Tsunoda has run out of luck by the sounds of it, boxing this lap with an issue. Rosanna, I think he's made it back to the pits. You're outside Red Bull.
Yeah, I was outside Red Bull watching the action on one of their screens, and suddenly the mechanics came running out and Yuki was already in the pit lane. So that was a very last minute call. The mechanics not quite ready, but he was brought in, popped straight up on the skateboards and reversed into the garage, and the mechanics are setting to work straight away, trying to work out where they're looking. One's looking underneath the front wing, checking for any damage, smoothing his hands over the different parts of the assembly at the front there. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on what's going on. We've got someone from Pirelli looking at the tyres, the rear right tyre. But yeah, everybody's jumped to action stations, but it doesn't look like there's like a huge bit of damage or anything. Oh, okay, engine cover's coming off, so it must be something within.
Then we'll come back once we find out what's within is troubling Yuki Tsunoda, who scored points in every US race this season, but is very nervous for his future in Formula One. He's been struggling in that second seat since he really took over from Liam Lawson after the first two races of the year. The Japanese driver making his 20th start for Red Bull with 3 rounds left to go, including this one. It might well be a bit of a farewell tour, as the sound we're hearing is Isaac Hadjar in the Racing Bulls, backed by Red Bull, pots himself up into 5th as the French rookie, who has of course scored a podium back in Zandvoort, a spectacular podium, very much in the frame to step up next year as Max Verstappen's teammate. I think Helmut Marko, the motorsport advisor for Red Bull, was describing him as having similar traits to Michael Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, saying the one thing he's noticed about Hadjar is that after 3 laps, he's there, he's competitive. This is a rookie year for Hadjar. He's never raced in Vegas. He hasn't raced the majority of these circuits, only the ones that cross over on the Formula 2 calendar he has any kind of experience on. So that's something that he's noticed, and I suppose, Alice, more often than not, when you've got the backing of Helmut Marko, you're pretty sweet.
Yes, that's what you need if you're in Red Bull. You need that. Obviously, you need the pace, but you need the backing of Helmut Marko, because he can be so brutal to these junior drivers. I'm still classing him as one of the junior drivers. He came up through the ranks through Red Bull in Formula 2 and nearly won the title last year in Formula 2, but wasn't meant to be. But yeah, he is one of the rookies of the year, really. He's put up a great fight against Liam Lawson. Rumours, of course, that he will be stepping up into the main seat. I just hope for him that he doesn't get the second seat curse, which we've seen happen to, well, probably pretty much every driver that's lined up against Max Verstappen in that seat.
Well, Sergio Perez, the reputation turnaround since he departed the team is kind of indicative of where Lawson and Tsunoda have compared. But for Hadjar, 10 Grand Prix points finishes this year. He became the 5th youngest podium sitter in Formula 1 history. He's made Q3 13 times. I believe that's more than any driver outside the big 4 teams. So he's certainly been impressive. When you go back to Australia, crashing out on the way to on the formation lap in those tricky conditions, the hug that he shared with Lewis Hamilton's father, Anthony Hamilton, in the paddock, and Verstappen saying there is potentially some rain, or being told there's some rain incoming in around 10 minutes, so that could spice things up nicely. It's not what the drivers want before qualifying, but Hadjar's come a long way this season, all the rookies have, and this is so Formula 1, because Hadjar could have so easily not had a career in Formula 1. He was the last confirmed driver for this season, I believe, while Red Bull were trying to figure out what to do with Sergio Perez and who would go into that second seat. And you and I, Alice, have commentated Hadjar well, for quite a while now. I remember both of us doing the Formula 3 season finale where he threw it all away in the gravel trap in Monza around the final corner
that's
in
quite
qualifying.
an iconic clip, isn't it, where I'm not even going to try. Why don't you try the team radio?
I'm not sure that's quite
car,
appropriate.
something like that.
He crashed the car, but he's very emotional on the radio. But he's got this incredible natural talent for Hadjar, and I think he's surprised even Red Bull themselves as he's progressed throughout this year. So he's currently sitting in 5th at the moment. His teammate Liam Lawson is down in 9th as lap times continue to come in. George Russell trying to improve 0.05 of a second off Lewis Hamilton's fastest time in the middle set to Hamilton is the benchmark lap time at the moment, a 1:42.809.
And just back to Hadjar, and I'm going to compare him to Oscar Piastri now. I know they're at different stages of their rookie, their career, Formula 1 career. Piastri's not a rookie anymore, of course, but Hadjar is. But you look through Hadjar's stats, and he definitely didn't have a stellar junior career in terms of Piastri wiped the floor. He won Formula 3, one Formula Regional, one Formula 3, one Formula 2, all in his rookie year. But you look at Hadjar, and he was 2021 5th in Formula Regional. He was 4th in F3, 14th in his first year of Formula 2 in 2023, and then finished 2nd in 2024. So actually, it's probably going to be a bit harsh, but I'm surprised of how well he's done, to be honest. Because Antonelli has did something a little bit similar to Oscar. Won F4 in his rookie year, won regional in his rookie year, missed F3, jumped up to F2, struggled a bit at Prema as a whole, struggled. He was alongside Ollie Behrman. But yeah, I think Hadjar, if you go by junior careers, has done an outstanding job jumping up into Formula 1.
He really has. He got a podium finish in Zandvoort, 3rd place I think that was, and he's out-qualified Liam Lawson, his teammate, 20 times to 5 so far this season across all qualifying sessions. But just to throw a bit of cold water on the Hadjar celebrations.
Here he comes.
He's got to go up against Max Verstappen next year, we think. And his average qualifying advantage over Liam Lawson is only 0.178 seconds. And that is not enough on the basis of what we've seen so far to get anywhere near Max Verstappen. So I think if he does get the drive, we all hope it works out for him, or at least that he can make a decent fist of it. But that underlines just what a big task he is facing if he does get the Red Bull seat next year.
Do you think then it's just Red Bull don't have the calibre that they want in terms of drivers, junior drivers?
It's a really interesting question, Alice, isn't it? And I don't know what Hadjar's going to turn into. He may turn out to be a really, really celebrated Formula 1 driver. But it is true that there are sort of tranches of drivers in Formula 1 in terms of quality. And the sport is very lucky at the moment to have a very high number of world-class drivers. Hamilton, Norris, Russell, Piastri, Verstappen, Leclerc, Alonso. But behind those 7, I think that is, and Carlos Sainz is obviously sort of at the head of the group that are next up behind those. But it's going to take a driver of that calibre to go into that Red Bull team and take on Max Verstappen on anything like a relatively equal basis, because he is just so good. And I think if you put any driver of a sort of a 2nd or 3rd category into the Red Bull team, the same thing's going to happen, because it's like putting them in against Ayrton Senna or Jim Clark. That's how good Max Verstappen is.
And am I right in saying, as Lando Norris has just been reminded on the radio, 0 risk as he's out on the soft tyre? Am I right in saying that Helmut Marko said he sort of missed the boat with Lando Norris? Am I reading wrong? Have I thought that?
Red Bull twice tried to get Norris when he was at McLaren, and that was at the time when McLaren were not successful, and Norris said no. And I think at the time a lot of people wondered why he said no, and from speaking to Zach Brown and Andrea Stella, the McLaren team principals, to McLaren CEO I should say, and team principal, Brown and Stella respectively, it was all about trust. And trust and transparency is 2 words that we've used a lot this year in terms of how McLaren have managed to pull off this feat of making Norris and Piastri battle for a championship and not fall out. Openness. They Norris, they were telling Norris where they were going on their journey as a team, and he believed them, and it's now paying off for him, because if he'd gone to Red Bull, you know, would he be on the cusp of winning his first World Championship this year? I think probably not.
How things can change very quickly in Formula One. A constant case of what could have been. Just under half an hour left as Lando Norris embarks on a lap on the soft tyre and nearly has a big swap on the front end of that McLaren coming out of turn 3.
I'll just finish that point with a caveat, which is to say that Norris is one of that elite group of drivers that you would like to see go up against Verstappen, who you would think would give him a stiff challenge. So that would have been a really tasty fight. But whether if you're Lando Norris, whether Red Bull is the right team to go and do it in is a different question.
Well, as Lando Norris squabbles his way around this Las Vegas Strip circuit, daring to try the Red Bull tyre, the soft rubber, so far no risk from Lando Norris, but it hasn't stopped him from sliding that McLaren, particularly out of the hairpin in turn 1. Talking of Red Bull, of course, a few laps ago we heard Tsunoda had a bit of an issue. Let's head back down to Rosanna. Have we got an update on that?
Well, Harry, the team have told me that he had a slow puncture, so they brought him in, and that does kind of tally with what I saw when he was brought in. The Pirelli engineer there having a look at the rear right tyre. He then went over to the sort of head of engineering, car engineering at Red Bull, Paul Monahan, and had a chat with him. So that kind of tallies. But why do you take the engine cover off if you've got a slow puncture? The cover's now back on. I've asked the team why they would do that. Let's just hear radio.
Giving soft tyre on Norris looks a mile off at the moment.
That's Kimi Antonelli being told by Bono's engineer that the soft tyre does not look good at the moment, but those messages are a bit delayed, and Norris has actually set a couple of mini purple sectors in the middle and the final sector, so maybe give it another lap or two and it might well be ready for the soft tyre. Sorry, Rosanna, back to you.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? All the teams are watching Lando Norris tentatively make his way around the circuit as Oscar Piastri, that was the sound you heard then, heads out on the soft, and so does Sir Lewis Hamilton as well, following him down the pit lane in the Ferrari. So more drivers, more teams taking a risk to try that slick tyre now. Yuki Tsunoda's just being fired up and raised back, put back down onto the ground, mechanics coming out to let him out, but Max Verstappen came in, Red Bull did a practice pit stop, they brought him into the garage, the whole front end of the car is off now, so a few changes, a busy evening already for the mechanics at Red Bull.
Certainly is. Thanks, Rosanna. Lando Norris just had to cut the corner at turn 7 and 8 just by the sphere, so it is still tricky out there, but Norris is sticking with it for the time being.
He's actually not setting any green sectors. His green, which is a personal best, he's done on the intermediate tyre, so he's just really struggling to fire up these soft tyres, and that's not down just to the track being super slippy, but also the temperatures as well. We're about 3 or 4 degrees cooler than what we were this time yesterday, and he's skating all over the place. And the problem is if you start sliding the tyre when it's not up to temperature, you run the risk of bringing in cold graining, and then you're going to really then struggle to get the tyre back.
But he's not the only one on the soft tyre though. His teammate has joined him along with Charles Leclerc and I think Lewis Hamilton too. I think Tsunoda's gone out there with the weather alert that we're being shown saying rain in 1 minute, but the teams have pretty advanced radar systems about the weather, and you think, well, if there's rain inbound, I suppose, is this the time? They're desperate to get some soft tyre running in for if it dries up for qualifying properly, or indeed the race as well, but they've got to try and do it quickly.
I've got a question for Alice. Norris, yes, he's been struggling, but there are a few, as you said, Harry, purple mini sectors. We get a sort of a line graph of their lap times, and it's broken up into 20 mini sectors over the lap. There's 4 or 5 purples on Norris's last trace. Can you get a sense of what the car's balance is going to be in qualifying if you're able to do that in these conditions, or is it a waste of time?
No, yeah, I would say you're going to really struggle, because he's about to go through, so we'll see what lap time he does. Has he been
just
through
pitted.
Already? So he's just pitted. Yeah. So his lap before that was a 1:49, but of course he did go off. They were in the 1:33s yesterday. Hamilton is already 1.5 seconds down on his fastest first sector. So you can't. It's so hard to get a judge. But we weren't expecting any rain for the rest of the day, and well, it popped up on our screen, and we heard Max Verstappen's radio as well that there's meant to be some more rain coming. I guess we've got our best weather radar is in pit lane. That's Rosanna, isn't it?
Oh yes, exactly. Well, we were told it was coming 1 minute ago though, so it hasn't happened yet. Rosanna, any bits of rain on your head?
No bits of rain.
Bits of rain.
No drops of rain.
Spits of rain.
No drops, bits or spits. No, I'm trying to be careful because I get told off for straying too far out into the pit lane. But I can't feel anything at the moment. But I'll keep you posted.
Thank you very much,
It's my job and duty.
Come on, risk yourself. Go and stand in the middle of pit lane.
Risk myself. It's not the cars I'm worried about. It's Formula One telling me off.
Yeah, that's actually more scary. Thanks, Rosanna. Right, we are 24 minutes, 23, 22, 21, 20 seconds remaining of this final practice session before we go qualifying, and a few of the front runners starting to put on the soft tyre, the dry tyre, that slick. And Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, should say, fastest of anybody in the final sector. So are we now starting to see the conditions come towards that slick tyre? We're just getting a bit of a replay of Oscar Piastri.
That's the white line.
Oh, nearly losing that. McLaren just coming through the early stage of the lap, through the right-hander of turn 3, and the wall's so close and waiting for you. Lando Norris was the first to put on the soft tyre, was told to remember no risks. Of course, they are taking a risk. It's been raining early morning. It hasn't rained heavily for a while now, but the track can still hold the moisture. There's not much wind here. It's cold temperatures too, so very tricky to get a fully bone-dry track. But more and more soft tyres being put on as well, so we'll get a little look at how the qualifying simulations might run, and indeed Max Verstappen getting a full-on simulation of how traffic might well work as he finds himself all of a sudden third in a queue of 4 whilst on a quick lap, and I think they're all trying to gear up. It's headed by Gabriel Bortoleto with the McLaren of Oscar Piastri in there as well, and Lewis Hamilton approaching from behind too.
So looks like Hamilton has done purple first, purple middle, and just like I say, that Leclerc now has done fastest first sector of anyone, but it looked like
that was Lewis Hamilton braking into the left-hander of turn 14, not getting it slowed down enough, and nearly heading straight into the back of Liam Lawson's Racing Bulls. He just managed to avoid him, but had to run off the track. Hairy moment for the 7-time champ.
I actually think he didn't realise that they were going to slow down that much. They were all just trying to get some space in front of him. Did you say that was Hadjar?
I think it was Lawson.
Lawson. I mean, that's just irresponsible from Lawson. Didn't Hamilton nearly have the same thing yesterday with Hulkenberg, didn't he? So, bit naughty from Liam Lawson. That was gonna be a very decent lap from Lewis Hamilton. So, riding on board with him now, he's coming down the heavy braking zone. And yeah, they're just all trying to get space.
Well, Lawson's behind Bortoleto. It's that traffic jam that Max Verstappen got caught into. So I feel like they're all just dawdling as they were going into the corner, really.
Yeah, Max is trying to make his way through, and yeah, Oscar got a great view of that. He was right behind it all, but Lewis Hamilton tried to turn in, probably thinking that Lawson was going to get out of the way. But Charles Leclerc now up the first driver into the 141s, but still a chunk of time away from what the lap times we were seeing yesterday in the 134s, 133s.
Yeah, going to be intriguing next 20 or so minutes. Leclerc fastest. Tsunoda's back out there after his issues and has popped his Red Bull up into second. We're just over 20 minutes away from the close of this final practice session. Don't forget, we're back at the Ashes from 2 a.m. on 5 Sports Extra. The Test Match special team will be here. As Yuki Tsunoda, did he just get into a spot bother there?
Yeah, I was waving my hand, mimicking what he was doing, kind of.
So you weren't waving at me?
I wasn't waving at you, no. I think it was Ocon who was getting in people's way yesterday, if I remember rightly. Yeah, it was an aggressive wave from Yuki Tsunoda, and rightly so. He was impeded by Ocon, but yeah, times are starting to improve quite quickly now.
Yeah, the track seems certainly dry enough. This is the sound of Yuki Tsunoda making his way through turn 16 now onto Harmon Avenue. Short blast down towards the flat-out left-hander of turn 17 that feeds you back onto the start-finish straight. Let's see what this does for Tsunoda, but would have lost a huge chunk of time and now gearing up perhaps for another lap. I suppose that's the one thing that we can see here, as we saw it a bit yesterday, is that you can get a couple of laps out of the soft tyre because of the cold temperatures. So that is something to think about, particularly when we go qualifying later and have that in their armoury.
Yes, it certainly is. Max Verstappen, he has set extremely good first sector actually, but still 2 seconds off the sector times we were seeing yesterday. Again, great conditions for Max. He loves these kind of conditions. Lewis Hamilton has nearly matched him, all by being 1/10 off in that first sector. But Max looking like he's enjoying the conditions at the moment. Lewis Hamilton, though, unfortunately for him, has come up against some more traffic, and there seems to be a lot of traffic, and I think it's the spread of lap time at the moment. It's Colapinto's out there, 3.8 seconds off the pace. Bortoletto seems to be making mistakes left, right and centre. He's 14.5 seconds off the pace, but he is going to go quicker. And hello, Yuki Tsunoda, fastest of anyone in the middle sector.
Decent lap coming together for Tsunoda. His teammate Max Verstappen has just gone fastest of anybody in the final sector and fastest of the session so far. He's put nearly 2 seconds on the rest of the field. A 1:39.156 for Max Verstappen, but Charles Leclerc's going quicker in the first sector. Max Verstappen quickest in the final sector, Tsunoda quickest in the middle sector. We saw some good pace from Tsunoda in free practice 1. Are these conditions helping the Japanese driver extract a bit more pace? Let's see what he's got. Tsunoda to the top of the times. Fastest lap from the Japanese driver, over 2.5 tenths clear of his teammate Max Verstappen. Tsunoda with a 1:38.896. Verstappen second. Then comes Lawson in third, but he's about 2.5 seconds back. We'll see what Charles Leclerc has got. The pole sitter, one-time pole sitter and one-time winner around this track from 2023. 1 corner to go, flat out, fastest of anybody by almost 0.7 of a second, as you're just under 6.5 tenths. Charles Leclerc in that Ferrari, a 1:38.251 to the top of the times.
The spread of the field is quite remarkable, really. I'm looking at Colapinto. He is in 9th place, 4.8 seconds off the pace. I mean, I don't know when we last saw the spread so big, but riding on board with Bortoletto now, who is not having a good time on these, and that was a good save from him on this soft tyre. He is still 14 seconds off the pace, down in 16th.
Yeah, he's the last time.
He's making personal, and he has done quite a few laps at the moment. He's done four laps on this soft tyre, which is the same as Max Verstappen, but it looks like he's just struggling a lot.
Well, Hulkenberg, his teammate, he's only, I think, just kind of come out of the pits, having been confined there for most of the session, not wanting to come out. But Lewis Hamilton now goes to the top of the times. The track constantly evolving here. He goes almost a second quicker than his teammate Charles Leclerc. Yuki Tsunoda is in third. We're going to see quicker lap times from both the Mercedes boys, Russell and Antonelli, in just a few moments' time. Rosanna, I believe you had a Tsunoda point you wanted to make.
Well, after that slow puncher, he's gone out and he's doing incredibly well. And I think yesterday he actually felt really confident in the car, obviously more so in FP1. And he says he's been learning about these low grip tracks and starting to feel confident in the car. But it does feel, as you were alluding to earlier on, it might just be a little bit too little too late. But it's so nice to see him up there, because we talk all the time, don't we, about a one-car team, that being Red Bull. So finally, in the twilight zone of the 2025 F1 season, Tsunoda's right up there with Max Verstappen. And just a point on that Gabriel Bortoletto moment, I thought he was weaving to warm up the tyres, but it wasn't that at all, was he? He was going left to right, trying to save the car. Impressive start from the young rookie driver.
Yeah, he's 2 seconds off in the first sector, and that sector, the fastest is Max Verstappen on 27.8. So really lacking in confidence here. Ocon, he's also struggling. He's 6.2 seconds off. I'm just amazed by the spread. Hadjar, though, he's feeling pretty good. He's gone up to 4th, and Max Verstappen retains the fastest time in the 36s, but they're still over 3 seconds off what they were doing yesterday.
Yeah, but I think the track is coming to them now with every single lap that they go round, with just over 15 minutes left of free practice 3. Verstappen fastest, almost half a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton, but Charles Leclerc is the sound you're hearing at the moment. He's just gone fastest of anybody in the first sector. Russell is third, Hadjar fourth, Leclerc fifth, Tsunoda's dropped down to sixth now. Sainz, Albon, Lawson, Behrman, the top 10. Colapinto is 11th, Antonelli, Norris, Piastri's in the pits down in 14th ahead of Ocon. He's in 15th, then it's Bortoletto in 16th, still waiting for actual lap times to be set by the two Aston Martins, Gasly's Alpine and Nico Hulkenberg's Sauber. Yuki Tsunoda has just set another lap time and gone 4 tenths adrift of his teammate. It's Red Bull 1 and 2, but I think that's about to go down to 2 and 3 because Charles Leclerc is approaching the start line now in the Scarlet Ferrari. Rounds the final corner. Leclerc to the top of the times, finds 3.5 tenths of a second. It's the Monegasque at the top.
Yeah, solid lap. Lando Norris has just put a first time down on the soft tyre, a 139.5. 10th place at the moment. He's going to have a little bit of traffic in front of him, though. I think that's Ocon, who is still one of those that's struggling. 4.7 seconds off the pace is Esteban Ocon in 13th. Might get a good tow though, Lando Norris, if he manages to not get held up too much by Esteban Ocon. Lewis Hamilton though, fastest of anyone in that middle sector.
The tow effect can really be something to watch out for, particularly in qualifying. I think we saw Nico Hulkenberg yesterday really benefit from that in free practice too, and by now Lando Norris is getting a decent tow from the Haas of Esteban Ocon, but then there comes a point where you end up stuck. But it's interesting actually, I don't think Norris is particularly chasing time here. Indeed, I think he's backed off because his DRS didn't open as he was heading down the strip. So I think Norris has decided to abort that lap. Colapinto goes up into 6th. For Alpine. It's now Hamilton at the top by just under 2 tenths of a second. So the Ferrari's flying so far. Both Red Bulls up there. Mercedes, but with time to find, and time they are finding. George Russell, fastest of anybody in the middle sector. Max Verstappen's going again. He's just set the fastest first sector. Chopping and changing with like every single minute that goes by.
This is like a long qualifying session, isn't it, in these final 20 minutes?
It's geeing me up for quali. Which, by the way, you can hear over on Sports Extra 2. It's an early one, but if you're up right now, then you may as well join us. We'll be on air just before 4 o'clock this morning over on Sports Extra 2. And I think it will be a brilliant battle. It feels like we've got a competitive grid going on here. I know you're talking about the field spread, but I think it's coming closer and closer with every lap that goes by. And by the time we get to qualifying, with the track ramping up a little bit than prior to this free practice 3 session, I think we've got Ferrari in there. Russell's just popped himself up into 3rd. We've got Mercedes there. We've got Max Verstappen and Red Bull there. Williams with Alex Albon's just popped himself up into 5th spot too. I think we're looking at a good qualifying later on today.
There's one driver that has not set a lap time or a competitive lap time on the soft tyre, and that is Oscar Piastri at the moment. He's down in 18th place, 7.5 seconds off the pace. Have a look as he's going to cut the timing being in the first sector shortly, but it's not setting many greens at the moment, and yeah, he's 1.5 seconds off what Leclerc set in that first sector. So could be just. I wonder if some of the teams have sent their drivers out to do different variations of bringing the tyres up to temperature, because Norris seems to be pushing earlier than Piastri is. So again, this is valuable data, particularly in these cold conditions.
I think so. I think Piastri is on a warm-up lap because he's been having to navigate a huge amount of traffic as we join Oscar Piastri. He's just had to pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars. In fact, everybody is out on the track. Actually, Hamilton, Lawson and Colapinto have just come in, but up until a few moments ago, all 20 cars were out on the circuit. So Piastri's fallen down to 19th place, but he's braking for turn 14 now at the end of the Las Vegas Boulevard and runs deep. That's not the ideal line for the Australian. Gathers the car back up, puts his foot to the floor, down Harmon Avenue, gearing up to finish this lap. Let's see if he continues to fly down towards the hairpin, because he was 4.6 seconds off the pace. No, he doesn't. He immediately pulls off to the left-hand side, slows down and lets the cars past him. Meanwhile, Yuki Tsunoda back on another lap. So too for George Russell. There was a turn 14 incident which was noted, but that has been reviewed with no further investigation. I wonder if that was the traffic incident we saw a little earlier.
Likely, I would say so. Russell's moving quite quickly now. He's 27.3 in the first sector, which is a couple of tenths quicker of the previous fastest. Tsunoda still struggling a little bit. He's now 1 second off Max Verstappen. Those early laps, which I'll probably say are the trickier laps, he was looking pretty decent. Alex Albon now holds the fastest first sector, so it could be a good weekend, I think, for Williams if they keep it up, because as we'd already touched on, it was a good opening couple of free practice sessions for Albon.
It certainly was, and Williams will be desperate for some points come the Grand Prix. Alex Albon's on a 5 non-scoring point streak right now, and Carlos Sainz too, looking to return to the points. Has been in the points 8 times so far this year. Williams sitting in 5th in the Constructors' Championship, but not really being bothered by Racing Bulls behind for now. They sit about 29 points ahead of Racing Bulls, who are embroiled in that epic battle for 6th. So too, battle for 2nd, Mercedes, 32 points ahead of Red Bull, and 3rd, who are only 4 points ahead of Ferrari. So that's a crucial fight for 2nd that will go all the way to the checkered flag in Abu Dhabi. Rosanna, down to you.
Yeah, coming into this weekend, the Williams team were pretty buoyant about their chances here in Vegas, saying that the track should suit them on paper, and it seems to be proving so in reality. Alex Albon was pretty happy overall in yesterday's practice session, saying they had decent pace, and his teammate Carlos Sainz kind of echoing that sentiment, saying that the car balance was good, but he was a little cautious about the tyres, saying that they were maybe a little close to the limit, but that they were on the right path, and it looks like they're following that trajectory this evening in FP3.
Yeah, with Alex Albon, although the times quickly fall down the order, he's on an outlap again, but both Williams now fallen down to 8th and 9th. It's Verstappen, who is 88 thousandths of a second ahead of George Russell. Then it's Leclerc, Hamilton and Antonelli, but fastest first sector belongs to Albon in the Williams. Fastest in the middle sector is the man you're hearing now, Lando Norris, who is completing another flying lap, and Lewis Hamilton is fastest of anybody in the final sector, and I think Norris has bailed out of it. He has indeed, and he's coming into the pit lane, having just set the fastest middle sector. So either he made a mistake, or he's not wanting to show exactly what he's got. Are they going to do a quick tyre change? No, he pulls into the pit box. The mechanics run to the car with the cooling fans, blow into the side pods, but other than that, not much action.
Well, they looked like they were about to do a pit stop and put a brand new set of soft tyres on, but decided against that. So interesting, we'll see. But Hulkenberg's now popped up into 7th, and Bortoletto, he's clearly getting more comfortable out there now. He's 10th place, 1.3 seconds off. So he's moved his way up. Oscar Piastri still struggling. He's last now. He's 4.6 seconds off the pace. You saw him have that lock-up. He is out on a brand new set of soft tyres. So we'll see. He's going to come across the timing line shortly. Jumps up to 12th.
Teammate Norris, 13th. Let's head down to McLaren. Rosanna's outside.
Yeah, Lando Norris waited some time in the pit box area. The mechanics have all gone and got their rubber gloves on. Time for a little bit of washing up in the pit lane. But I think, is that because the car might be a little bit dangerous, dangerous to touch? I'm not sure. They're now wheeling it back into the garage. But yeah, they've all put on these very long sleeved gloves to touch the car and bring it back in.
Yeah. Sorry, Alice, you go.
No, I was going to say that usually is a sign that it's storing some electrical energy somewhere, Andrew.
Yes, it means the car's live. They need to insulate themselves because there's a lot of current going through these Formula 1 cars with the hybrid systems, and that's not the way it should come back into the pits. It should be safe, so there must be some kind of electrical issue there with the McLaren of Lando Norris.
It did sound a bit whirly. Is that the terminology when we were riding on board with Lando Norris when he was coming into pit lane? So yeah, maybe there is. Clearly there is some kind of issue there.
5.5 minutes left to run of free practice 3. The final chance to dial in your car before we go qualifying later on today under the lights here in Las Vegas. Qualifying on Sports Extra 2, 3:55 build up ahead of the green light at the end of the pit lane from 4 o'clock in the morning. It's an early one, but I think it'll be worth getting up for. Times continuing to tumble. That rain, though, that we were promised, didn't quite rear its head again, did it, Rosanna?
But it is now, Harry. The finest raindrops falling. I was a little uncertain whether it was rain or not. I almost thought it might be someone's champagne dripping down from Paddock Club above me. How the other half live, eh? But there is just the finest sprinkle coming down in the pit lane. But we're so close to the end of the session now. I don't think it's going to affect things. And I can almost barely feel it. I can just see it through the light. So, yes, we got away with it.
Well, it might affect the likes of Verstappen, Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton. They've all gone out on a brand new set of soft tyres. So not the ideal time for it to suddenly start raining. But Bortoleto, fastest of anyone in that first sector. And as I say, that's snatched away by Alex Albon, who is also on a brand new set of soft tyres. Yeah,
Liam Lawson fastest in the final sector and has gone fastest of anybody. I think that just kind of highlights how much the track is evolving lap by lap. The young Kiwi in the Racing Bulls, 9 thousandths of a second quicker than Verstappen. Russell's third. Bortoleto pops up to fourth ahead of Leclerc and Hamilton. Antonelli is seventh ahead of Hadjar. Hulkenberg and Tsunoda round out the top 10. Then it's Albon and Sainz, the two Williams drivers, ahead of the two McLaren drivers who are both confined to the pit lane. Piastri ahead of Norris. Then it's Gasly in 15th with Colapinto, Ocon, Alonso, who's been very quiet in this session, down in 19th, and Ollie Behrman 20th and last. 2.8 seconds covering the entire field, and times continuing to improve as George Russell puts 7/10 of a second on Lawson and goes to the top as Verstappen improves in the first sector. And talk of a quiet Alonso, not so much, as he decides to have a chat, puts himself up into third, but he's still over 6.5 tenths adrift of Alex Albon. And a fast-charging Williams is the 29-year-old London-born Thai, looking for a top 10 start later on today. His first since the Belgian Grand Prix, if he can get it.
Well, Max Verstappen is going to, well, momentarily, I would expect, ruin Albon's free practice 3 party, because he's looking so quick in the first 2 sectors. He's going to get a little bit of a tow from one of the Alpines in front of him. I think that might be Gasly. So he's going to go through the final corner now, and yeah, 6/10 clear, 34.281. So we're quite quickly charging down the... I actually think we've exceeded the lap time that was set in the first free practice session. Yes, we have 34.802. That was by Charles Leclerc, and we're getting a little glance there at the weather radar, Harry.
We certainly are. I couldn't quite read it though, but
looked like some rain on it. There was lots of blue on it, but where we were on that map.
Confirmation, it is raining again, and we're seeing Franco Colapinto in the Alpine slipping and sliding and really hanging the rear out as he slides his way through turns 6, 7 and 8 with the sphere shadowing the Argentine driver. But a minute and just over a minute and a half left. No heroics needed in these final stages of free practice 3. They'll have a few hours to get ready for qualifying. One of the hardest qualifyings of the year. The time zone for all the drivers to switch to. The amount of distraction that you can find yourself here around Las Vegas, but also traffic around the street circuit. You've got bumps, and you've got it all on the line, some with more to lose than others.
Well, Harry, we've just watched Formula 1 cars go around this track for nearly an hour, and I haven't got the first idea what order it is.
You know what, I'm so glad
in terms of the relative order. Fernando Alonso, for example, he's done nothing all weekend. He was the only one to run soft tyres all yesterday. Suddenly, on a set of 7-lap-old tyres, he pops up into the second place. He's now dropped down to 8th. You know, you've got Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in 19th and 18th places in the McLaren.
19th and 20th, yeah.
Oh, now they've just gone to the very back. Yes, it's just and because of the conditions, the different tyre usage of the teams. Some of them have now put new tyres on the cars. Some of them haven't put new tyres on. That's why Norris and Piastri are at the back. We just have no idea going into qualifying who is competitive. I mean, I think we can probably guess.
But that's a good thing. I like that. Do you like that? I mean, maybe it doesn't help with your writing, but
I mean,
you just write, don't know.
At the end of the day,
it does help.
At the end of the day, with practice, you never know, right? It's too difficult. But you don't normally not know to the extent that I don't know now. If you see what I mean.
It's always reassuring if Benny doesn't know something, then that's always quite actually reassuring for the rest of us.
We're all in danger if he doesn't know.
But we're going into the unknown as the clock ticks down to 0. Final laps to complete in this final practice session. Russell takes the top spot, fastest in the middle and final sectors, but Verstappen is coming quickly too. But we have got a yellow flag out there. It briefly goes away again, so it shouldn't trouble Max Verstappen, who is flying now down the Sands Avenue bends that go to the right and then the left, but he makes a mistake coming into the left-hander of turn 12 to set him up down the strip, can't get it turned in, decides to avoid a hefty lock-up, and the lap falls away from Max Verstappen.
Tricky bit of traffic there from two cars coming up to the braking zone at the end of the strip there. It's not like Max Verstappen to make a mistake, but you can see why he did in that scenario. It just sort of threw him off.
Gabriel Bortoleto a little earlier had a big old lock-up too and ran deep. What happened to Charles Leclerc coming into turn 12, and he again ran deep as well, but just managed to get it back into the corner without taking to the runoff area. And we are about to see a massive lock-up from Fernando Alonso. We are indeed, but he quickly gets off the brakes, runs that Aston Martin deep down at turn number 14 at the end of the strip. So cars pushing out there right to the very end. How much they've been able to learn, well, we'll find out in a few hours when it comes to qualifying. We're going to be back for quali later on. Green light on at the end for 4 a.m.
Idiots, and honestly, they just drive to the racing line. I had to go to the wet.
I knew as soon as we saw Verstappen radio pop up on our screen, it was going to be moaning about the traffic, which he had every right to do so. McLaren, 19th and 20th. I know that is not going to be where they're going to finish in qualifying. But it's weird that they opted to... Well, actually, Piastri went out on a brand new set of softs, but he didn't get a lap in. Norris did 6 laps on a used set of soft tyres. So it's interesting that they didn't feel like they wanted to spend much time out there.
No. Apparently, though, it is properly raining. Rosanna.
It is. I just got a raindrop in the eye.
Oh no.
Are you okay?
I think I'll survive. I will need a break though between FP3 and quali, which is luckily what we're getting. But yeah, those tiny raindrops have actually turned into something a little bit more consistent. So what does that mean for quali? It's going to be really interesting. We've got F1 Academy out on track between now and then. So yeah, interesting times ahead. I'm really excited for the upcoming qualifying session.
Yeah, it will be really intriguing. Very exciting as well if you're up early for it. Here's Behrman.
It's impressive. It does take a lot of rain to really things up.
Interesting from Ollie Behrman. It doesn't take a lot of rain to mess with things on track. I'll PR that.
Well, yes, well done there, Harry. Well, it's cold, and I think as it opens up, okay, Singapore, parts of the track open up as well, but there's a lot of big trucks, big American cars driving around the track. And when we walked in earlier and I had a little pop over my head over one of the bridges, it was, when we came in this morning, it was very wet, but you could see that the fluid, fuel, oil, just shining on the top of the surface there, mixing with the water. Well, we know oil and water doesn't mix together, but never see that really at the likes of Singapore. I've been to Singapore when it has been bucketing down with rain.
So, at the end of the final practice session, then Russell fastest ahead of Verstappen, Albon the top 3 with Hadjar and Hamilton the top 5, Antonelli, Lawson, Stroll, Alonso and Gasly the top 10, Behrman in 11th ahead of Sainz, and it's Bortoletto, Ocon and Leclerc down in 15th. Colapinto was 16th ahead of Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, and as we've been saying, Piastri and Norris down in 19th and 20th. We've got the Ashes coverage coming up once again on 5 Sports Extra, the TMS team here very shortly, 2 a.m. An early start, but very much worth it. Australia trailing England by 49 runs with 1 wicket remaining. Then we're going to be back for qualifying Sports Extra 2, 3:55 ahead of 4 a.m. start. Very quickly, Alice Powell. She's taking her headphones off. I'm not done yet.
Oh, sorry.
In 2-3 seconds, who's on pole after that session, which we can't really gather anything from?
Max Verstappen.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I've changed from earlier on when I said it was Charles Leclerc.
Okay, we'll go with Max Verstappen. Join us again for qualifying later on. Thanks for your company. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.